In the last 10 to 15 years in the evolutionary biology literature, there have been a lot of claims that the phenomenon of niche construction is a very neglected aspect of evolutionary explanation, and that it has great explanatory power which is going to extend significantly our present ways of understanding evolution under standard neo-Darwinian explanations.
Now these papers make several claims, at least three of which are very important.
The proponents of niche construction, most notably Professor Kevin Laland, have been claiming that niche construction as a phenomenon has been greatly neglected in evolutionary theory traditionally. They also claim that there is a vast body of formal theory that shows how incorporating niche construction into mathematical models of evolutionary change can give rise to unexpected and counterintuitive evolutionary outcomes.
That niche construction as a phenomena has the same causal importance as the phenomena of natural selection in evolution.
In our paper, we refute all of these three claims. We show using various examples that niche construction has not been neglected at all.
Now, what exactly is meant by niche construction? The proponents of niche construction use the term to cover pretty much everything that an organism does, from breathing, eating, excreting to dying, in the sense that whatever an organism does affects the environment.
Quite often they change the environment in such a way that their own ecological niche as well as the ecological niche of others is drastically affected.
Therefore, the proponents of this view argue that niche construction in effect gives organisms a role in guiding their own evolution in a certain way. And this is partly why they claim that this is such a revolutionary idea.
As a phenomenon, this thing is known to biologists for a very, very long time. And as a matter of fact, a lot of work in, say, coevolution, experimental evolution, and many different areas of ecology and evolution explicitly have taken this into account.
People have looked at how organisms interact with the environment and how those interactions subsequently change the evolution of these organisms. And this has gone on from the times of Darwin.
Darwin himself has written a book about earthworms and how they change their environment.
Earthworms burrow into the soil. When they burrow into the soil, they change the physical properties of the soil, which in turn changes the amount of water the soil can hold. This is why earthworms are so important for agriculture. Now, due to the change in the amount of water that the soil can hold, the immediate environment of the earthworm changes, as a result of which the selection pressure that is operating on them is very different, and they evolve in a completely different way.
Using examples starting from Darwin and going on to the early days of population genetics and much later to studies both on field populations and in the laboratory on experimental populations subjected to laboratory selection, we show how the perspective that organisms can affect their environment and thereby their evolution has actually been right there at the heart of evolutionary theory ever since Darwin.
They've also claimed that they have come up with a rich body of theoretical literature.
The mathematical models that the proponents of niche constructions claim are such an extensive addition and extension to standard evolutionary theory are really not much more than simple two-locus population genetics models of the kind that have been around in the literature for more than 50 years. And all that they are doing is really showing that niche construction as a phenomenon can give rise to certain patterns of time-legged epistasis, which not surprisingly can give rise to somewhat unintuitive evolutionary outcomes.
One of the claims from these proponents of niche construction theory has been that niche construction and natural selection are two phenomena at the same pedestal in terms of their epistemology.
I can think of a large number of scenarios where natural selection in the absence of niche construction can cause evolutionary change, but the reverse is just not possible.
While niche construction itself is a phenomenon that we agree contributes to the evolution of organisms, it is not the case that niche construction occupies the same central position as natural selection does.
We are not claiming that niche construction is a phenomenon does not exist, and indeed we have explicitly said so in multiple places in the paper.
But the way in which niche construction is being pushed as a new and revolutionary new paradigm hints at attempts to create an academic niche.
We are also somewhat dismayed at the manner in which these claims have been pushed repeatedly in the literature for the last 10 to 15 years, with very little new being said either in terms of fact, concept or example, but with constant repetition that is increasingly reminiscent of what we nowadays call the post-truth world.
This paper was very thoroughly reviewed by 3 reviewers, and we made lots of modifications based on the comments of these reviewers. Now the paper has been sent to the proponents of niche construction theory for their comments. Once we get their comments, then we are going to say what we feel about those comments, and then these 2 sets of comments and our paper together will be published in the Journal of Genetics. I see this as the beginning of a dialogue about the relative importance of niche construction, which hopefully will advance the entire theory quite a bit.